Hello, and welcome back to yet another NFL video. Today we are highlighting another top level NFL team, which I think is going to go a long ways next season. One of the best teams in the NFL, one of the greatest stories in the NFL. We're talking about the Detroit Lions, complete garbage for most of my lifetime and most of everybody's lifetime. You can find a World War II vet and he'll tell you how ass the Lions have been. So the story lately though is that Dan Campbell came in, took over, and ever since then the franchise has just been on an upwards trajectory, which capped off with the NFC Championship game appearance last year, and they arguably should have made shouldn't I mean not should have made the Super Bowl, but they were well in position to beat the 49ers and go to the Super Bowls, but they really kind of botched it at the end there. Multiple non-field goal attempts, folded defensively against the Niners, but Lions are on a great path right now, and a lot of people are picking them to not just make but win the Super Bowl next year, and I can see why. So let's get into it with this video right here. Thank you all for watching, and let's talk about the Detroit Lions. All right. So looking at 2022, which was Dan Campbell's second year, I believe. They went 9-8, shocked a lot of people. They started off pretty bad, I believe, but then late in the season they just pulled it together, went on a crazy streak. I think they knocked the Packers out of the playoff in their final game, even though they didn't make the playoffs themselves at 9-8. An amazing stretch there at the end. A lot of momentum going into 2023, and 2023 was just their breakout year. It was the emergence of a great roster, really, a lot of young players, but a lot of solid veterans. A couple breakout years for guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Brian Branch as a rookie played at like damn near an all-pro level. They had a great draft class last year. A lot of those rookies came in and contributed right away. So yeah, everything kind of went well for the Lions last year. So let's get into what made them so good as a team. Really, it was just having, do I say the best offense in the league? I mean, if you're top five, right, in five out of the six categories, I'm not sure how many teams are competing with that. I can't remember off the top of my head how good the definitely the Texans were not that good. Chiefs weren't even that good. Eagles definitely were not this good. I mean, in terms of just teams we've covered so far, how many team? I mean, it's definitely the best offense we've covered so far. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The Lions, maybe along, they were the best offense in the NFC. Dolphins were amazing in the AFC. The best offense in the NFC last year. Um, Turned the ball over quite a few times, but you don't got a top tier quarterback. You can kind of expect this, stuff like that. Defensively, though, you know, I feel like the Lions were kind of overrated defensively right now. Don't get me wrong, they're not a bad team defensively, I don't think. I think a lot of it is kind of projecting how good they will be. But last season, make no mistake, guys, they were not good last year defensively. They were probably a bottom 10 to 12 defense in the league. They were great at stuffing the run, and I give them all the credit in the world for that. That's a tough thing to do in the NFL. But I mean, come on now. They gave up 250 passing yards a game. Other teams didn't need to run the ball against the Lions. So they were only top 17 in one category. And obviously their struggles in the secondary really just it killed them their whole season because Kendall Vildor in the playoffs, oh, he's awful. He got absolutely cooked every single game. Cam Sutton ended up being a complete bust of a free agent signing. So they had to completely rework their secondary this offseason. I think they're going to have three new starters, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe two new starters. Actually, no, because they might have three new starters and even their fourth string, I think. So they completely reworked their cornerback room as they should. It was terrible last year. Um, so I can see why people are kind of hyping them up yet, but it's still, you know, I still need to see it to believe it because just based off the stats last year, they were not that good, but still, obviously, the point being a lot of room to improve defensively, but offensively, one of the best years in the NFL. Let's talk about the coordinators for a second. So Ben Johnson, the mastermind behind this amazing transformation on offense of the Lions, he was one of the biggest head coaching candidates during this last cycle. I actually wanted my Seahawks to hire him at one point, but he actually remained. He stayed with the Lions. I'm sure he had multiple opportunities to go be a head coach, but job's not finished. I guess he wants to stick through and see them win a Super Bowl. So shout out to him. That is an amazing retention on the Lions' part to keep him around for another year. And then defensively, you got Aaron Glenn. He's been there uh, through Dan Campbell's tenure. And, like I said, not the best defense in the league, but a lot of room for improvement. I think they will make that big jump defensively next season as well. So I like both their coordinators. I love their coaching overall. I think they will have they are one of the best coach teams in the NFL. So, yeah, really no faults I could name from the Lions from an organizational standpoint. Let's take a look here at the depth chart. And this is, looking forward to next season. Jared Goff, he absolutely has had a career resurgence, back to back Pro Bowl caliber years. Um, and they gave him a big time extension, I believe. Which, if you would have told me that 2 years ago, I would have been shocked. Last year, I would have been hesitant, but back to back years, I think you deserve a big payday like that. The running back duo, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, is one of the best in the NFL. It's a great 1-2 combo. Obviously, Jahmyr a bit more shifty, more explosive, can do more on the inside or the outside rather. And David Montgomery, traditional bowling ball power back, runs in between the tackles, great in goal line situations. It's an amazing combination and part of what made them so good last season. Their wide receiver core, it's pretty much the same. They didn't really make any big additions there. It's not that deep really of a receiver core. They lost somebody. I think it was Josh Reynolds they lost in free agency. So they keep Khalif Raymond, Jameson Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. But if someone were to go down with injury, knock on wood, Antoine Green is kind of the next guy up who we have not really seen much of him. He's a young guy, has not seen the field a whole lot. Their offensive line is absolutely incredible. It's arguably the best in the entire NFL, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And I love their tight end, Sam Laporta, burst onto the scene as a rookie. I mentioned the draft class last year was so amazing, and I criticized it heavily. Right after the draft, I was completely wrong. They have one of the best draft classes in the NFL, so I was completely wrong about that. But yeah, man, their offense, I can't name a flaw. What the only flaw really is, Jared Goff, and he's a back-to-back Pro Bowler. So the flaw of your offense being a back-to-back Pro Bowler, you're doing pretty well. The Lions are one of the best offenses in the NFL defensively. A lot of changes here. Marcus Davenport, I believe, is a new addition. DJ Reader, they bring him in from Cincinnati, I believe. New defensive tackle there. Uh, the rest of their front seven remains relatively the same. Obviously, we all know what Aiden Hutchinson is capable of doing, one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL. I like the linebacker duo. Jack Campbell, a little young. He has some room to improve. And as I mentioned earlier, completely reworked secondary. Carlton Davis, Ennis Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold, all brand new. And I believe Amik Robertson, did they sign him this offseason or last season? He comes from the Raiders. I don't know if he is brand new or if he played there last year, but one of the two. So it's a completely new secondary compared to 2 years ago, for example. And obviously, Brian Branch is a star in his own right. And Emmanuel Mosley, unfortunately, just suffered another season-ending injury. So their depth at cornerback now becomes even shorter. Kindle Vildor cannot see the field ever, so you don't have many options. They're gonna rely pretty heavily on some rookie cornerbacks and Ennis Rakestraw and Terry Arnold, and we'll see how well they hold up there. Let's take a look at the stats here for some of their offensive players last year. As I mentioned earlier, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, just an amazing duo. Might be the only duo in the league last year where both players had over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns each. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I mean, I'm just trying to think right now. I mean, I know a couple years ago, Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram both like had really good seasons simultaneously. That's the only thing I can even think of that like I mean, both guys over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. That's like unheard of, man. So, yeah, obviously the Lions love running the ball and they have the means to do it. They have two great options at running back. Jared Goff, those are great numbers. Those are great numbers. Those numbers are more than good enough to get you to a Super Bowl, to win a Super Bowl. They just have not crossed that hump yet. Amon-Ra St. Brown really took the jump to be an all-pro level player. I mean, 123 touches. That's just insane for like even the top tier receivers. Like if you crack 100, you're a top tier receiver. 120, and they get him the ball at the backfield too. So it's like he is just such an impact. He is a superstar. Like he makes an impact in every single game. He's so difficult to stop. 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns. It's a short list of guys who are able to break those types of numbers. Sam Laporta, I already mentioned it. He's already like a top three tight end in football. Um, the sky is the limit for him. This offense is just so loaded. And really, if we just talk about these four guys, right? Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, or St. Brown and Laporta, you're probably good enough to win 12, 13 games, right? But Jameson Williams is possibly the biggest X factor in the NFL. If this guy lives up to 80% of his hype coming into the NFL, I mean, the Lions should win the Super Bowl. I mean that seriously. Jameson Williams coming into like he was so dominant and so amazing in college. And with his speed, we've seen it like on display. He only has like 29 career touches, but I think he has like four touchdowns, 500 yards. Like it's just been such a small sample size with him. I just want him to be healthy, no fucking gambling suspension. Just be healthy, be on the field, get that chemistry going with Jared Goff. And honestly, the sky is the limit for Jameson Williams. He's so talented, so explosive. And if he just gets going, man, the Lions will just be, they literally will be impossible to stop. They will be the best offense in football, bar none. And let's talk about what really makes them so special. This offensive line is ridiculous. Talk about all five starters playing nearly 1,000 snaps last year. They bring in Kevin Zeitler from the Ravens, who was very good in his own right. I mean, let's just start from left to right. Taylor Decker, an 80.0 pass rating, a very good run rating for a tackle, just a very, very good, not great, but very good left tackle in Taylor Decker. Graham Glasgow, the left guard, amazing run blocker, very extremely good actually. It's really tough to get to break that 70 mark for overall rating as a guard. And he blew that out the water. A very good offensive guard. Frank Ragnow, arguably the best center in football, a 90 plus. This is all PFF grades, by the way. A 90 plus run block rating. Obviously, you know how much they love to run the football. He was amazing at it. Only one sack allowed, nearly 1,000 snaps. A good pass blocker. One of, if not the best centers in football. Kevin Zeitler, like I mentioned, bring him in from Baltimore. A good pass blocker, a very good pass blocker. Actually, the best graded pass blocker on their entire offensive line. Very highly rated overall. And Penei Sewell, I mean, this guy was like getting shitted on as a rookie, and look at where he is now. That might be the highest rated offensive lineman I have seen in any single team we've done. A 90.7, possibly the best run blocker in football, just based off the PFF grade. A very good pass blocker. Only one sack allowed in nearly 1,200 snaps. Nearly 1,200 snaps, probably more than that, including the playoffs. Only one sack allowed. 90.7 rating. This is the best offensive line in football. I'd put my money on it. I mean, their, their offense is so good, man. I can't find a flaw. Amazing offensive coordinator, great weapons, very good quarterback, the best offensive line. Like, come on, man. Man, this offense is fucking nasty. And taking a look at this defense now, you got stars, right? You got the stars, Aiden Hutchinson, all pro level player. Brian Branch, amazing as a rookie. And then you got some other guys. Aleem McNeil had a breakout year last year, only 13 games played, 5 sacks as a nose tackle. That's incredibly impressive, man. Very tough to get pressure from that interior position, but we're seeing a lot more guys do it. Aleem McNeil, one of those guys that had a sneaky good season. He's looking for an even bigger breakout season next year. Alex Anzalone, such a good rotational guy. He was there through the really, really bad years, and he's kind of just turned into the perfect, run D linebacker that they need. He does everything for them. Jack Campbell, he was great against the run as a rookie, not so good in coverage. That's fine. They want him as a downhill stuff the run type linebacker, but if he can improve that pass coverage a little bit, he can really, turn into a well-rounded player there. Carlton Davis, he's the big time get. I mentioned earlier how a lot of these corners are young and inexperienced and rookies actually. Carlton Davis is the guy who's been there, done that. The main problem with him is the injuries. I mean, everybody kind of knows Carlton Davis. He's a good player, but he's only good for 12 games a year, so they're going to need. I mean, they're thin. They are thin at cornerback. They can't afford for Carlton Davis to miss 4 or 5 games. So they need him to be healthy and to be good. So a lot of pressure on Carlton Davis next year to hold the secondary together. And Kirby Joseph, big year last year, 4 picks as a safety, very good passer rating allowed, a breakout year for him last year. So, I like this defense. I definitely wouldn't call it top 10. I probably wouldn't call it top 12. There's just too many questions on the back end, really. And there's not enough proven pass rushers besides Aiden Hutchinson. So this defense definitely has some holes and some question marks. I wouldn't call it top 10 or top 12, but I'd call it middle of the pack with room to improve, certainly. So, yeah, definitely think the Lions defense is being overrated, though. But, yeah, I like the defense, possibly love the offense more than any other team in football. So keep that in mind. Now, this is what they looked like last year, right? Obviously, um, they only lost, by the way, to really good teams besides the Bears lost. That was kind of just out of nowhere. Um, and they had some really good wins, man. Obviously Chiefs week 1, one of the biggest wins of the season. They beat the Packers who on the road, who turned out to be a really good team. They beat the Buccaneers twice, once in the regular season and in the playoffs. So it was a great year. It was an amazing year last year, obviously winning multiple playoff games and coming up just short miss. So close to beating the Niners, but close doesn't cut it. Let's take a look now at next season. This is one of my favorite parts of the video, predicting how I think their next season is going to go. Let's start it off here. I think they start the season off with a win. Now, keep in mind, I don't think I've had any of these teams lose. Actually, I think I did have one. I think I had the Eagles losing week 1 to the Packers. I don't know. I have them winning week 1 in a playoff rematch versus the Rams, another very good team. I might do a video on the Rams. I don't know if I have time. I got a lot of videos planned out, man. I'm gonna be uploading every 2 days now for a while. But great team in the Rams. It's a great week 1 matchup. Two good teams. Rams kind of more. I mean, I don't know, man. They're pretty evenly matched, but I do think the Lions beat them just like they did in the playoffs. It's just I gotta see somebody stop this Lions offense. And the Rams got a lot of new pieces on that defense. After that, though, I do have them losing week 2. I know they beat the Buccaneers. I know they beat them twice in last season, but I think it's just different. I think the Buccaneers, they're going to walk into next season with a lot more swagger after their magical performance. Getting to the playoffs, winning a playoff game. I just think I think the Buccaneers get it done at home. By the way, at home against the Lions. Never mind. Lions are actually hosting Buccaneers. This is my thought process. They have to lose one of these 2 games, right? They play 2 playoff teams in the first 2 weeks. They have to lose one. I'm picking them to lose to the Buccaneers. That's pretty much how I see it. However, after that, they rattle off some big ones. On the road against the Cardinals, easy money. I think they win that one. By the way, this is a little mini rant right here. My Seahawks have played the Lions 3 years in a row. They're going to, including this next year. All 3 games have been in Detroit. How is that possible? By the way, how can a team play an out of division team 3 years in a row? And how the fuck can all of those games be in one team's stadium? It makes no fucking how unfair. And by the way, we've beat them 2 years in a row on the road. But how the fuck they're just gonna keep hosting us until they beat us eventually? Well, congratulations. You beat us in 2024. That just blows my mind that they can host an out of division opponent 3 years in a row. But I think they finally get it done against my Seahawks. Mini rant over. Then I think they go on the road, beat the Cowboys. I think they beat the Vikings, sorry, on the road, their first division win. And I think they host the Titans and beat them closely. After that, though, I do think they lose back to back, actually, on the road against the Packers. It was a very good matchup last year. They split last year. I think they'll do the same this year on the road against the Packers. That's a tough one to win. And then on the road against the Texans, another very, very good team. 2 of the best in the league, honestly. I mean, this is an amazing matchup right here. But I think the Texans offense, I think the Lions defense is much more shaky, I'll say, than the Texans defense. I think that's what's going to come back to bite them. Following that, though, 5-game win streak at home against the Jaguars, easy money. On the road against the Colts. Colts are not good enough to beat the Lions, in my opinion. Against the Bears at home, I think you get the job done at home. And then you host the Packers, like I said earlier. I think you split that series just like last year. And then you host the Bills, which I think they will get the job done against. So 4 out of 5 of these games are at home, by the way. So a really timely home stretch for the Lions coming off back-to-back losses. I think they finished the season with back-to-back losses, actually. I think they lose the Bears on the road. I just think the Bears offense is too good. I think they're going to catch the Lions defense at least once. And on the road against the Niners, that's a very, very tough game. Both of these teams are going to be vying for playoff seeding. I think I just don't think it's going to go well for the Lions. Very last week of the season against a good team. It's on the road. It's just tough to win those. And by the way, look at this. 4 of the 5 losses, I had them losing on the road. I only have them losing one game at home. And I'm not sure if that was the case last season, but I feel like it was. I feel like the Lions are a team that play much better at home than on the road, except when they're playing my Seahawks. So I have them going 12-5, same as last year. And I think they're going to enter the playoffs as the 2 seed. I have the Eagles as the 1 seed, even though they have the same record. I have the Eagles as the 1 seed, Lions as the 2 seed. Oh, sorry, Vikings last week. I thought not okay. So they do win the final week of the season at home against the Vikings. That'll be a fucking blowout, a slaughter. So they enter the playoffs 12-5, 2 seed. I think they beat the Rams, man. I think they beat the Rams for a third time in a row. I think they play them in the playoffs again and get the job done again. It's not a diss to the Rams. I got the Rams making the playoffs. It's just I just think the Lions are so much better. I think the Rams have holes. I don't like their offensive line. I don't think Stafford is as good as he used to be. Their secondary has a lot of new players. So I like the Lions a lot more. I trust them a lot more. They will be hosting the Rams in this hypothetical situation. So I think they get the job done there. In the divisional round, rematch versus the Niners. They in my hypothetical situation, sorry, they lose to the Niners in the conference championship last year. I have them losing the second last week of the season. I do not think the Niners beat the Lions 3 times in a row. So I think the Lions get their revenge in the playoffs. I think they beat the Niners, which they were unable to do last year. I think they punched their ticket to the NFC Championship game where I have them losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. Great matchup, amazing matchup. I just I don't know what it is. I am hitching my wagon to the Eagles. This is a road game for the Lions, by the way. I would have the Eagles hosting in this situation. Um, I'm attached to the Eagles. I don't know why. I just think this is the year. I picked them last year. I was dead wrong, but second time's the charm. I have them going all the way this year, winning the Super Bowl, and I just think the Lions. It's a close game. I would not be shocked at all. I mean, it would almost. I mean, I think the Lions would actually be the favorites in this game. I think, but I have the Eagles winning close. All these games close. Can't predict a blowout. All these teams are double-digit win. Very good teams. I think the Lions back-to-back years come up just short. So close to a Super Bowl, but just can't get the job done. This is how I have it panning out. 4-2 the division. Win the NFC North, obviously. Not a bad loss in the schedule. A couple of great wins here. Another great season, man. You can't complain. Lions fans, they were so ass for so long. Back-to-back 12-win seasons with back-to-back trips to the NFC Championship game. You just can't be mad at that, man. And the trajectory, Dan Campbell would have been just proven to be possibly, I'm not going to call him the best coach in the league because of Andy Reid, but the best coach in the NFC. I think that's possibly fair to say. Obviously Sean McVay, guys like that have won Super Bowls, but man, Dan Campbell, if this would have happened, the Lions and Dan Campbell, I mean, they would be viewed as one of the premier teams and one of the fan favorite teams just in the NFL. So likable. So I hope this happens, man. I like the Lions. I want them to succeed. So yeah, man, that's gonna be it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in fucking 2 days. So yeah, man. Have a good day. Peace.